Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hey, business leaders, want your audience more focused than a monk in a staring contest? Want them grinning bigger than when they found out their in-laws aren't coming for Christmas? Then you need the amazing Arthur Fratelli. Arthur is a TEDx speaker, Last Comic Standing alum, and lifelong martial artist, traveling the country, captivating audiences at conferences, corporate events, and schools. His high-energy keynotes blend failure, focus, and flow with comedy, magic, and jaw-dropping skill. Facts fade, but stories stick, and Arthur delivers a TEDx-worthy experience they'll never forget. Book now at theamazingarthur.com, because your event deserves more energy than a caffeine-fueled ninja. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts and other stuff they're involved in. My guest today began his martial arts journey over 20 years ago training in Dayton, Ohio. Early on, he purchased a Brazilian cherry Bokken for class, but his background in woodworking, inherited from his father, led him to experiment with a variety of exotic woods. He started crafting his own Bokken, which received a positive response from his peers, and that inspired him to launch Blizniak's Bokken, where he combines traditional martial arts craftsmanship with innovative design. It's all about offering practitioners and dojos a unique, high-quality tool that resonates with their art. Please welcome my guest today, Mr. Dan Blizniak. How are you doing today, Dan?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you. Seriously, I truly appreciate this. I've wanted someone who made wooden weapons for a while, and I'm looking forward to talk about that in your whole martial arts journey. So I truly appreciate your time.
Yes, of course.
Well, what we like to do with all my guests, I want to go back, I mentioned, over 20 years ago in Dayton, but I want to know what led to that. I want to know where that first interest in martial arts came from, that first spark that kind of kicked off your martial arts journey, and talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. As a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, obviously a fan of, movies, martial arts and movies and cartoons and whatnot growing up. So I've always been fascinated by just martial arts in general. Mm-hmm. I did Taekwondo as a child, which I think everybody does. It's kind of a rite of passage, right?
Yeah.
And then kind of grew out of that. And then when I was about 20 years old, started getting more into Aikido and Aikido Jiu-Jitsu, and just found that whole martial art very fascinating. Okay. From like a spiritual component to it. And I thought the idea of ki and things like this, just very fascinating. So I started training Aikido Jiu-Jitsu, which was, kind of a harder form of, it's not really very different than Aikido. Mm-hmm. But I loved it. I loved the practical training of it, just learning, different locks and things that, I'm a larger man, so I get humbled a lot in class by, little girls that could just flip me on my butt, and I'm like, okay, yeah. So it's just technique, it's in learning, so I have a passion for learning about all different things. So
okay,
that's kind of how I got started. And then in the class, we had to purchase a Bokken for some weapons training that we were doing. And I had purchased a Brazilian cherry. I can't remember where I bought it from, somewhere online. Mm-hmm. I was like looking at it and I was like, I bet I could make one of these, and so, and my father lived in Buffalo, New York. So I knew, I had access to his wood shop. So, what I did was I started researching different types of woods, different species of woods, because I didn't really know much about, I didn't realize there were so many varieties of lumber that you can purchase. The exotic woods are it's crazy, and they're all different colors and densities and weights and have different properties. And so, yeah, I bought a bunch of different types of wood and drove up to visit my father up here in Buffalo, and we kind of came up with a process of how to make them. And then I made, a dozen or so, and then I brought them back to Dayton to show, my fellow students, and got a real positive response. Everybody thought they were really cool. And, all the research I had done on the woods was kind of part of the fun. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and people have never seen these woods. They're so cool. I mean, bloodwood is literally the color of blood. It's like a red wood. It's so cool. Like, and just feeling it in your hands and holding it kind of gives you a different experience than just looking at a picture of it on the internet,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I got a positive response. I started selling them on eBay,
Nice.
which dates me a little, but
Mm-hmm.
that was, what everybody was doing. So,
Wow.
so yeah, I started selling them. And then once I ended up moving to Buffalo, and once I moved up here, I had, basically full access to my dad's shop. So that's when I launched my website and started really selling. It started with just Bokken, and then turned into Joe staffs and bow staffs, and then now I have a wide range of tools that I make, and yeah.
Cool. Well, and I definitely want to dig more into that, but first I want to back up a little. First of all, you mentioned taking Taekwondo as a kid. Curious how long you did that for, and if you remember what belt you got to.
Oof, I don't.
Okay.
It was probably only for a couple years.
Okay. Do you remember? Did you do any tournaments?
No. I
Really?
think I was probably 5 or 6 years old, maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was pretty young. I don't really remember. I remember breaking some boards.
Nice.
I remember, it's very,
Kids
very
remember
limited
that.
on my memory. Yeah, those are impactful moments, right?
Yep. Yeah, that first board break, because I started martial arts when I was 10, but I didn't do my first board break till I was 18. So, and I remember it. I remember it very well, but yeah, I didn't break my first. I didn't get, and I, helping my instructor teach kids classes and holding boards for the little 5 and 6 year olds and just seeing the look on their face when they break it. So yeah, that's definitely, I can see why that memory stays with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then when you got older, 10, 15 years later as a 20-year-old, what led you to Aikido? What was it when you did, first of all, what made you want to get back into martial arts? And then how did you find that specific school and style that you trained at?
Yeah. So I've always been, since I was about 12 years old, I got real into Eastern philosophies like Buddhism, and was practicing meditation and mindfulness and things like that at a young age. So I was always kind of fascinated by religion, philosophy, consciousness. And, I was at kind of a weird point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was 20. I had a house, a girlfriend at the time, and I just kind of needed something, and I don't know, I don't even know how I stumbled upon it, but I just started kind of, that passion kind of got reignited about martial arts, and I had never heard of Aikido. So I kind of started reading about that. I got some books on it, read some books on it, and then looked around for local dojos, and there weren't a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Back then. There were a couple, like at the rec center, and I went and watched some classes at different places. And then I went to Tama Martial Arts and watched a class there. And what I really liked about Aikido Jiu-Jitsu more than the Aikido, it was a little harder, more faster paced, and I felt like it had more practical use. Whereas Aikido, I thought was always kind of more softer and more, another word. I'm not trying to, dissuade anyone from either one, but I liked both aspects. I thought it was kind of interesting, but I ended up training there and really enjoyed it. But once I moved to Buffalo is kind of that's when I stopped training. Okay. Because I couldn't really find a dojo here that kind of resonated with me. That
I get that. Yep. I get that for sure.
Yeah. And I didn't, I kind of, what was interesting was the woodworking kind of became my martial art in a way. Okay. I kind of focused on that and really got a lot of enjoyment from crafting these things for other people. Okay. In their own journeys. And I thought, it's kind of neat to be a part of other people's training, I'm sure I'm not training with them, but they're training with something that I put a lot of intention and thought and time into crafting, so I thought that, it was kind of neat that I was able to affect other people's training with my own, work.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
One more question about Tama martial arts. So you said when you moved to Buffalo, you couldn't really find one that resonated. What was it about that instructor at Tama? What was it about, that instructor that really stood out and that you think really drew you in, to him and to that teaching style?
Yeah. So what I liked about Master Training Co. was he was kind of a master of a lot of different martial arts, kickboxing, Filipino stick arts. So he kind of incorporated some of those other things, which I kind of liked, that it wasn't strictly just the Japanese style, So I felt like it was kind of like little pieces from different martial arts. I liked that aspect of it.
Nice.
And then I had another sensei there, Sensei Mike. He would work us pretty hard, but he was like just in such great shape. And it was kind of an inspiration. Like, man, this guy, I remember he entered some tournament what it was, but like he had never trained in that specific martial art and he ended up winning it.
Nice.
So it's like, he was just so like strong and just knew the techniques so well. So I really enjoyed learning from him as well. Okay. And just the camaraderie you get from training with people, I really liked that.
Okay. And then how long was it after you left Dayton and got to Buffalo before you decided to really pursue, the woodworking and, the training, making training weapons and stuff? Was it pretty quick, or was there a little break in there?
It was pretty quick. I was already kind of selling them on eBay. And then I thought, I should just, now that I can make them more readily, I should just do my own website. And then I was a web developer and programmer, so I was able to make a really cool website that like you could see the different pictures of the woods, and then I used some programming so that you can actually get more of a visual of like what the Bokken would look like with the different woods. So it was a lot of fun to do that too. I like doing design work and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty much right after I moved up here, I started working on the website, and once I got that set up, I started selling online and all over the world, really.
When you first launched the website, was it still just the Bokken, or had you expanded by then?
It was still just Bokken.
Okay.
And I was pretty much just making solid wood Bokken, hickory and a lot of the different exotics. And then it kind of turned into more people really wanting custom stuff. And like myself, I'm a large person. So, like a lot of the traditional sizes, 48-inch Joe staff is like a toothpick for me, So like I always wanted, and so I liked the idea of being able to make these custom things for people that are, or maybe somebody has smaller hands or they have large hands, or, I can kind of fine tune the tool to fit the artist, So I really liked that aspect of it. So, and then it kind of turned into just all custom products. I basically, somebody would order something and then I would make it. Like I never had anything in stock, which I'm trying now to actually get some stuff in stock. It's just, I've always been so busy with the custom orders that I don't really have time to make, like pre-make things that are just ready to go.
It's a good problem to have, though. I mean, to be that busy with custom stuff. After the Bokken, what was the second thing you added? And was that something you just decided, hey, I need to do this? Or did someone reach out and say, could you make this for me?
That's pretty much how everything that I've added is people have reached out and said, hey, what about a Joe staff? And that was the next thing I started making. And, there's a lot of trial and error and a lot of mistakes, which is the best way to learn how to do something, is to do it poorly for a while. Nice. And, so there was a learning curve for that and different techniques. I used to make like hand scrapers and stuff to make the Joe staffs, and my processes are still changing. Like I still 20 years later, I just last year just started doing, change the process on how I make Bokken. Like it's kind of fun. Like I like changing things. I like making things better. I like trying to, make things stronger and more longer lasting. And, but yeah, all my products have basically been from request. And then I'm like, yeah, well, I'll try and make it, Nice. Let's do it.
Do you still have those, any of those original dozen you made, original Bokken?
No.
Okay.
I think I sold them all. I do have one somewhere, which was the first laminated Bokken I made. I kept that for myself.
Okay. I was just curious, like back, that many years ago, if you saw it and compared it to what you're doing now, would you be like, God, I can't believe I sold these? Or were they still pretty decent by your standards?
So that's funny because I do. So somebody sent me a Bokken that I made 16 years ago,
Okay.
and then they said, "Hey, can you refinish this for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, send it to me." And yeah, I had that moment of like, "Oh my God, like I'm so much better at making these now," But I mean, that's how you learn. You have to make them. You can't
Yeah.
just like nobody comes out, just making them perfect right off the bat. So. And the nice thing is I was able to kind of reshape it a little bit more to more like the handle style I'm using now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely, yeah, I had that moment of like, oh my God, so much better now,
That's cool.
but,
No,
so yeah,
that's actually really cool.
it is. But then I also kind of feel bad because then if somebody purchased something 20 years ago and they're like, didn't like it,
Yeah.
and now they probably won't ever buy anything from me again because they didn't like it, and
True.
they didn't tell me. So,
I guess,
but
yeah.
I've always, yeah, I've always had a, 100% satisfaction guarantee because when you're buying stuff online, you never know what you're going to get. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the Temu thing where they order something and it comes in, it's like,
Yeah.
miniature or whatever. And you're like, well, okay. But especially with these, I genuinely want people to want to train with these things. And I don't want, I don't want to make things that people are like, aren't going to use.
Yeah.
So like I always say, if you don't like it, if it doesn't feel right, send it back, I'll remake it or, refund your money, whatever you want to do. Cause I definitely want people to enjoy my work and
Yeah.
not because we've all bought stuff that we're like, this is not good.
Definitely. So what are your thoughts? Like I've done like random searches before, like on YouTube, and there's so many videos out there like how to make your own Bokken. Have you ever watched any of those? And I'm just curious, like obviously someone with experience like you, it's definitely going to be a better project, but would you ever suggest someone attempt to make their own? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, so I'm all about like I've even thought like it would be kind of neat to do like a Bokken making class or something like that,
Oh,
teach other people how to.
I would go to
I
that
mean,
in a
I've
heartbeat.
always thought,
Yeah.
yeah, like I thought that'd be cool, like you people, but it's so hard because it's unless you live in the area where I am, it's difficult to travel here, and
Yeah.
But I always thought that in the back of my mind, I always thought that'd be really cool to teach other people how to make them. But yeah, no, I haven't watched too many of those, and I kind of wish when I was first started making these, I wish I had more help because I was kind of flying blind into it because there really wasn't any that I remember tutorials or anything, YouTube videos, because it was just not very common when I
Yeah.
was making it. When I first started making them, there was Kingfisher was around, and maybe, you could Century Martial Arts, obviously.
Yeah.
I think they were around, but like you could buy them online, but there were very limited people
Mm-hmm.
that were making these. So I didn't really have a lot of guidance, but yeah, no, I think that would be really cool. And I've thought about maybe if I ever had time to make, videos and kind of teach people, stuff that I'm doing. So I don't think, I understand why, people are usually hesitant to share their trades because, it takes time and
Yeah.
effort and money to learn stuff. But, I'm all about, openness and, sharing. Like I want other people to, especially if you're passionate about it,
Yeah. That's actually cool.
or come work with me because I need people to help me.
Yeah. Well, if you
You
ever
know?
decide to do a class, let me know and I will promote the heck out of it. I mean, that's even if something
Yeah.
that I wouldn't be able to attend because it's so far. Now, would you ever,
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what equipment's involved in making it, but would you ever, let's say a school said, hey, we'd like to bring you in for a weekend and we have 20 students that want to all make their own. Would that be something that'd be possible if someone's willing to pay you to travel, or is it too hard to find the equipment locally?
Yeah, you'd need a wood shop.
Okay.
With some, yeah.
So
And like a lot of the exotics and stuff, they're so dense and so hard that
Mhm.
you really need industrial equipment well, I mean, I guess if you're just making one,
Yeah.
you don't really need that crazy equipment, but it makes it a lot easier for sure. If you've got heavy duty, like 3-phase electric stuff, that larger horsepower motors.
Okay.
And also carbide, you need carbide blades for cutting most of this wood.
Nice.
But, if you're dealing with like oak or even hickory, I mean, they're very hard woods, but a little bit less strain on the equipment with those.
Closest I've come, I know when I was a kid, I attempted to make my own nunchucks. They did not turn out well. And I think I tried making a bow staff once, but it ended up being a hiking stick because it did not look anything like a bow staff. So
Yeah, they're tricky. They're definitely tricky to make. But yeah, no, nunchucks actually, it's funny. I'm going to start selling those. I think, well, I'm hoping this year.
I was just going to ask that. Okay.
Yeah, they were illegal in New York. Up until just a few years ago, they finally repealed the law. Which I always thought was kind of silly that like, why nunchucks?
Yeah.
But, I figured, jokingly, I thought when there must have been a nunchuck gang in the 80s that was running amok, and they were like, we got to do something about these nunchuck wielders. Because, I mean, honestly, if you're not trained in using them, you're more likely going to hurt yourself than somebody else, But yeah, so that's,
I don't see tonfa on your list.
Yeah, so I've made them in the past, and that's something I could definitely add.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't get a lot of requests for them. And those are usually turned on a lathe, and then, but like when I tried to make them before, I wanted it all out of one piece of wood without like turning two separate pieces and having that joint. So I have been doing some joinery with some products. I did I made these kind of medieval style, European style pole axes out of laminated wood. So the axe head itself was a separate piece, and then I used like a half lap joint to secure it, because you want the grain running perpendicular to the staff, because that's how it's going to be strong. Whereas if you cut it out of one piece of wood, it would just break right there. I haven't only had a handful of requests for it, and yeah, I just never really had a big enough market for it. I know, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people can make and sell, themselves. Because it's, you're turning it on a lathe, or a lot of people are more familiar with wood turning and things like that.
I don't own a lathe, so I might be chatting with you when we're done here about possibly making a set of tonfa. So
yeah, well, I was thinking about trying to make them with that half lap joint, sorry, because I just made a kamayari. So it's the straight spear with the little side blade, and it turned out really nice. And I did the same kind of joint there, which I think would work for a tonfa. So I might try doing that just to see. I like to make new things and experiment and see if it works, And a lot of times what I'll do is I work with a bunch of different dojos across the country, and I'll just send them stuff and say, hey, break these, or try to break them, or, work with them and see if they feel good. And so, but I also like to do things different than, the traditional, like I like to keep to traditional designs, but I like to make them differently if I can, and try and put my own spin on it,
That's cool. If you ever want someone to try to break a pair of tonfa, let me know.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite weapon. So I'd love to.
That's awesome.
The pair I have, I probably bought. I think it was at a local sporting goods store in my hometown when I was like 14. So I've had these things for like 30 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
They've held up.
They have, but I'm not training with them every day. I mean, we didn't. I bought them because I wanted them. My first few styles I trained in, we didn't use tonfa. I didn't really start using them until I got in traditional taekwondo. And theirs, I usually had the ones at the dojang I was using, or if I brought my own in on weekends or something like that. But I was never training with them hardcore. So, but I've had them. Yeah, I've had them since I was in high school. So
very cool. Yeah. Do you know what kind of wood they are?
I'll have to dig them out and see if I can tell. I don't, like I said, I bought them over 30 years. I mean, I graduated in 92. So I bought them over 30 years ago. I remember I got them, I think, my sophomore year. It was so I told the story a few times. We had this local sporting goods store that would sell. I mean, the first time I went in there, I was 10 or 11 and bought throwing stars. This local sporting goods store would sell weapons to kids. I bought throwing stars, throwing knives, nunchucks, tonfa, all before I turned 16. So yeah.
Same here. Except I'd always go to the flea market. That's where I got all my stuff. Cool. That's cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I like just talking about wood identification. Sometimes it's really hard to tell because people use stains. So if you stain the wood, it's it's going to be a lot harder to identify.
Yeah, I know it's like either stained or painted black. The pair I have, so I'm not sure if I can even tell or anything.
But do you know what the best way to identify what a species of wood is?
No idea. I'd love to know.
It's by smell, actually.
Really?
It's interesting, yeah, because so when you're cutting into a piece of wood, it's you can smell the sawdust, obviously, but that's how you go to a wood supplier and they'll have 500 different species of lumber, and some of them look so similar. It's like, well, how can you tell these apart? And I was talking to one of the guys working there, and he's like, oh, you gotta smell it, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense actually, because some woods are so fragrant, like think of cedar. I mean, you can identify cedar by the smell.
True.
It's got a very distinct smell to it. So it is interesting because sometimes I've been working on something that I think is a certain wood, and then I realize once I start sanding it that it's actually a different species.
Okay.
And yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of different rosewoods that are all very similar. They have the red hue to them, but you can't really tell when the wood's unfinished. Or sometimes you have to actually finish it. Once you put like a coat of finish on it, you're like, oh, wow. Okay, this is definitely bloodwood. No question about it. Because it's very dull and not as brilliant in color until you finish it.
Nice.
So yeah, that was a fun fact I learned that I always thought was interesting. Like, oh, and it makes sense too, because my favorite wood, Lignum Vitae, it almost smells like incense. It's a very distinct smell to it that actually they use the essential oils from it in a lot of colognes and things like that. Yeah. So
why is that your favorite wood? I was going to ask you that.
So that was one of the very first woods I bought when I first started making these, and it's the densest wood in the world. So it has a specific gravity it's above 1.0, which 1.0 is water. So basically it sinks in water. It's like one of the few woods that will not float because it's denser than water.
Okay.
Yeah. And, they used to make bowling balls out of it.
Wow.
Judges' gavels. Yeah. It's just such a cool wood. And then, working with it, and it's green. I mean, the wood is actually green. Like, it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Not green like a branch that fell off a tree and it's like green on the inside. It's like the heartwood is green.
Really?
And it's got hues of yellow and stuff. And it's got a real feathery grain to it. It almost looks like a feather, like in certain parts. It's really cool. And it finishes to glass finish. Like it polishes up really nice.
Okay.
But yeah, that was like, I think that was probably the catalyst to this too, is I had read about Lignum Vitae, on the internet and stuff. And then once I actually got a piece of it and I made a Bokken out of it, I was like, wow, this is different because it's so heavy, such a heavy wood, and like compared to like oak or hickory, and oh man, I just love it. And working with it you'd think it would be super difficult to work with because it's so hard and so dense. But it's got all these natural oils in it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you cut it, it actually is like self-lubricating. So it's like it cuts really well, which is surprising because a lot of hardwoods like Ep214 or some of the other really hard ones that are high up on the Jenka hardness scale, they just dull the tools really easily because they're so hard.
Really cool.
Yeah, Lignum Vitae is such a cool wood. It's hard to come by and rare, but just absolutely beautiful.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I just didn't realize, just not knowing that existed,
mm-hmm.
And then getting a piece of it and being like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. So it was, that kind of just spurred that passion to learn about like what other kinds of crazy woods are there. Like I didn't know that all these things existed.
Okay. So most of your customers, are most of them single customers, or do you sell to some instructors that order like in bulk?
Both. Yeah. I sell a lot of individuals, and then I work with a lot of dojos all across the country.
Okay.
And have reseller plans with them so that they can purchase in bulk, or they can pass the discount on to their students.
Okay. Good to know. I know a lot of my listeners are instructors. That's why I like asking that, in case they're looking for someone to buy some training weapons from.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, I don't really do like a quantity discount,
okay,
because I don't want people to feel like they have to buy more stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just a set discount on whatever you order, basically. So if you can order one thing or 20 things, you get the same discount.
Okay.
And then that way people aren't. I don't like to pressure people into sales. I mean, it's probably not good for sales, but
yeah.
I don't want to. Anybody to ever feel like. I want them to want to purchase them and buy one, see if you like it, and then buy some more. But they are, they're not, it costs money, and
Takes time to make them, and yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
But to me, it sounds like you're doing it the right way. You're not just trying to sell something. You're trying to build relationships. I mean, you want that. You want them to like your product. It's your name that's on it. It's your reputation. You don't want to ruin that. So you're giving good customer service. You have a great return policy, and you work with them. So I mean, that to me, that's all pluses. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I also want people to like them and to use them. I don't want somebody, because I just had somebody return a Bokken. They said, I never used it. It's been sitting in my closet for 2 years and it wasn't heavy enough. So I said, well, mail it back to me. I'll make you a new one out of Ep214, which is much heavier. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, of course. That's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to make you guys tools. Like I want you to use it,
Nice.
So it's kind of neat. But yeah, you do build a lot of good relationships with people.
That's good. So I was reading on your, what explain the flex core, because I'm assuming that's you said the new way you were making them about a year ago. Is that what the flex core is?
Yeah. So I kind of came up with that. There was a school in Colorado, in Boulder, or Colorado Springs, I believe. And the gentleman contacted me, and they use tapered bow staffs. They break them a lot. And I guess they just shatter on the ends because they're doing very heavy contact training. And his instructor had told him he had a staff that they thought was super strong, and it was made from, he didn't know exactly what it was made from, but either rattan or bamboo, but it was laminated with something else. So, he was like, have you ever used rattan? And I said, no. But what I ended up doing was I found a supplier for rattan, which for people who don't know what rattan is, it's like bamboo, basically.
Okay.
It's super flexible. It's a monocot, which is technically a grass compared to like a tree is a dicot. So they kind of grow differently than trees. So like the way a tree grows, the heartwood is in the center, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the outer wood is called the sapwood, and that's where all the nutrients and water are getting transported throughout the tree. Whereas a monocot's kind of the opposite. The hard part is the outer shell, in a way. It's like, you can think of it as like a beetle or a bug with an exoskeleton. So if you've ever held a piece of bamboo with the skin on, it's very hard on the outside, but softer on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, sorry, I get sidetracked a lot.
That's okay.
So I found a supplier of the rattan, and then I was able to cut it into strips. So rattan generally doesn't have the hole in the middle like most bamboo does. Like It's usually hollow in the middle. These pieces are solid all the way through, but it's, super flexible. You can bend it around. You can tie it in a knot pretty much. But the people that use just strictly rattan, from what I've heard, from what people told me, is that it gets destroyed pretty easily from contact training, just because, it's not a hardwood, right?
Yeah.
So I made some prototypes for this dojo where I layered rattan with Ipe. Mm-hmm. Ipe is spelled IPE. I know I keep saying that, but it's also called Brazilian walnut, but it's a super hard wood. They use it a lot for decking, and it's like super hard, but it's basically like a dark brown wood. So I laminated it with Ipe, like different layers, and then sent them one of those. And then what I was kind of picturing in my head, and this is what I was struggling with, was when you layer, you've got a bunch of thin layers of alternating Ipe and rattan, you're going to have soft points on there, right? Where if you strike it on the edge, the rattan's not going to hold up as well as the Ipe.
Right.
So it's going to dent kind of funny. So I was trying to think of a way to completely wrap the hardwood around the rattan. And that's kind of how I came up with the flex core. It's basically just a double laminating process where, the way I glue it up, it basically has a core of rattan, and then on all four sides, it's all hardwood. And the other cool thing you can do with that is you can orient it so that the edge grain is facing out in four directions, whereas a solid wood staff, you're only going to have edge grain on two sides.
Okay.
So you have flat grain, and then you have edge grain. So like when you buy a cutting board, generally what they do is they put the edge grain up, because that's the hardest part of the wood. Mm-hmm. And then the face, they glue the face grain together. So it's also kind of because that was another thing I had always thought about, was you're always going to have two weak sides of a staff if it's a solid wood product, which is why laminating, another reason why just lamination in general can make a stronger product, because, you're kind of eliminating those or reducing those weak points. I sent them some prototypes of the flex core, and then also just a regular it was just laminated Ipe with rattan.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, hey, break these for me, if you can. And so the first one that was just the rattan and Ipe, it flexed too much.
Oh.
So the rattan could move a lot more, and the Ipe is more rigid. So what ended up happening was one of the Ipe layers broke.
Oh.
Because it flexed too much, right? So that the hardwood could only flex this far, and then it broke, past the rupture point. So I was like, okay, well, they started trying the FlexCore product, and they were training with a steel sci, and they ended up bending the steel sci with the staff.
Wow.
And I was like, wow.
Wow.
Like, yeah, we actually had to turn it around and start beating it the other way to straighten out the steel sci. Yeah. I was like, well, that's impressive, because the steel's definitely harder than wood.
Dang.
But yeah, they were not able to break it. He did end up smashing it on a concrete block, and eventually was able to break it. But in normal training, it didn't break.
That's impressive as hell. Wow.
Yeah. And then the other prototype I sent down to a dojo down in Virginia, Bujinkan, Joe Ray. He'd be a good guy to have on your podcast.
Okay. But
yeah, he's a really cool guy. But I sent him a lot of stuff and they do a lot of weapons training. And I sent him a Joe staff, a FlexCore Joe staff made with Ipe, and they were training with that with a diamond wood Bokken, which diamond wood is like I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a material that you can't get it anymore. The company that actually makes diamond wood burned down a while back, but they have other companies create the same product. But it's basically they use layers of birch wood and different resins, and then they compress the heck out of it. And it's kind of like plywood. It's basically plywood, but it's, plywood, when you look at the edge of plywood, you can count like, oh, this has got like 4 or 5 layers in it. This stuff has like 20 layers in an inch thick material. So it's super compressed. It's super hard. And it's been around in martial arts training equipment forever. Mm-hmm. But anyways, the whole point of the story is it actually cracked the diamond wood Bokken. Which it could have been a fluke because it was an older Bokken. He said that he had it for a long time, and maybe it was ready to go. But it was just kind of like, wow, this is too many green flags going on. Like, I think I made something pretty awesome that is going to hold up. But the most interesting thing was the unintended consequence of they found that the rattan core actually reduced the amount. It was like shock absorbent. So when you hit something and it like brings up your arm, that vibration, it basically eliminated that.
Wow.
Which I thought I wasn't even thinking about that, but I was like, oh, that makes sense, and it's also, you can think of it as like a corked bat, right? Like,
oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So what you're doing is you're reducing the weight so you can swing it faster and harder, but you still have that hardwood on the outside.
That's really
that's kind of how the FlexCore all came about. And then I started making it with Bokken as well, with a different lamination process where I do like a stacked lamination and actually laminate the curve of the Bokken with a jig or a template. Kind of like I used to make traditional bows for archery, like long bows and recurve bows. And it was the same kind of process where with that, I was using carbon fiber and wood and fiberglass. But basically you build a jig that has the curve into it, and then you laminate it with that so that the curve is laminated together, basically.
Nice.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm making those a little differently. And yeah, I mean, it's fun to come up with things that because martial arts have been around for so long and the wooden stuff has always been around, and it's like, I'm trying to make it a little different, And
I can tell you enjoy it just by the tone of your voice. I can tell how much you love doing it. So that's cool.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
And I will definitely, I'll put a link out there when the episode comes out, so everyone can go check out your website and hopefully order lots of stuff from you. And I'm just looking through it, and it's a good looking website, and a lot of cool stuff on here. So yeah, I think people will enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm currently on a hiatus until April 1st, but I guess by the time this airs.
Yeah. By the time I noticed that on your thing, but yeah, by the time this airs, you'll be good to go. So
yeah, I'm trying to get some stuff pre-made So because, my turnaround times at one point were 2 to 3 weeks, then that turned to 4 to 6 weeks. And then at the end of this year, it was 3 months.
Oh,
and
wow.
I just, I got to a point where I was like, I have to get caught up and just basically stop taking orders for a bit just to catch my breath. And, I've been trying to get some, I have a couple people helping me here and there. Yeah. Just, trying to get caught up. And also I had some shop maintenance that I needed to work through. And
Okay.
I'm also, I modify my equipment and build new stuff to make things better.
Nice. That is awesome. Like I said, I'm excited to hopefully get some Tomfas from you in the future. So we'll definitely stay in touch about that. I'd love to order a pair. But so I'm curious, going back to the start of your martial arts journey through now. You're, like I said, you're not training, but you're still involved in the martial arts world. Do you have is there a philosophy you've learned that is like a favorite philosophy? It's at the top of your list.
Let me think.
No problem.
Yeah. So for me, I don't know. I feel like making things with intention with these different types of woods, I feel like they vibrate at different wavelengths. Everything is vibration in the universe, energy and matter. It's all just vibrating. And I feel like, and I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking things, but I feel like certain things resonate with people, certain types of wood, maybe, where people, and that's why I set the website up with a bunch of different types of woods that you can look at and kind of get a feel for the wood, because they're so unique, and so different that, just learning about them and then finding one that resonates with you. Like for me, it was the Lignum Vitae. It just really resonated with me in a weird way that was unexpected. So I kind of feel like, I don't know. I don't know. It's not to get too philosophical, but I feel like we're all kind of just floating around on this big rock, just trying to figure it out. And I think making stuff is, for me, it's my spiritual practice. I remember reading one time, spirituality is basically something you can lose yourself in. So it doesn't have to be art or martial arts, or it could be taking a walk in the woods. It's whatever you can completely lose yourself in and immerse yourself. And that's what woodworking to me has been. When I'm, shaping wood and sanding it, and I'm focused on it, I'm not thinking about other things. I'm not thinking about politics or what's happening in the world. I'm just me and that piece of wood, and I'm making it, shaping it, into something that somebody can use. So
I like it.
I think, yeah.
That's cool. How about a worst martial arts related injury? Do you ever have any bad injuries when you were training?
No, I mean, just the general sprains and whatnot. I have some woodworking injuries.
I can imagine.
From splinters. Some of these woods are toxic. The sawdust is, and I mean, they're not to handle. Like, they're safe to handle and train with. It's just that when you ingest it or get a splinter lodged in your hand, it's quite painful. But yeah, that's no actual martial arts injuries that I've never broke anything. Or
honestly, I'm the same. Like I said, I think a fractured knuckle, a sprained ankle. My worst injury is from kickball. So yeah. I've had some guests with some really, really bad ones, and I was like, Oh,
I bet.
I know. Yeah. That's when I first had someone ask me, why don't you ask that question? I'm like, I don't know. I've never had a bad injury, and most people probably haven't. And I'm like, oh, maybe. And I asked him, like, oh yeah, I fractured a vertebrae. I'm like, oh my God. Like, geez.
Yeah, you can definitely get injured.
Yeah, definitely.
Tossing people around. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. How about like the UFC and MMA? What are your thoughts on that? Is that something you're a fan of?
Oh yeah, for sure. I love it. I love watching it. The Brazilian jiu-jitsu, those are obviously, they don't really train with weapons. So
right.
I'm always interested in it, but I'm like, hey, you guys should start using Bokkens. But but yeah, I'm a huge fan. I love combat sports and
nice.
Yeah, all kinds of sports.
Cool. All right, I got a few fun questions we use to wrap up the interview. So we just asked about UFC. So let's say at some point in your life you decided you were going to join the UFC. You were going to get into the octagon and fight. What is your walk-up song going to be? What music's playing as you're taking that walk to the cage?
Ooh, probably Dropkick Murphys or Flogging Molly.
Nice.
Some sort of Irish fighting music,
You're the second person I've interviewed in the last probably 2 weeks that has said Dropkick Murphys. So
yeah. it gets you pretty pumped up.
Yeah. Well, I actually interviewed a guy. You might enjoy this interview. A gentleman named John Border. The interview actually just came out a week ago, but I recorded it about a month ago. But he is a expert in Irish stick fighting.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah. Shillelaghs is something I've wanted to make.
Nice.
Which they're really cool, but I think you need the can't remember what kind of tree, or it's like a shrub or
blackthorn is
blackthorn.
Yeah.
Blackthorn.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
And it sounds like
really
it's actually
yeah.
available up in the eastern part of the U.S. So you might be able to find some out there.
Really, I didn't know that.
I was actually reading like where can you find blackthorn in the U.S. and it was like a couple parts of the country, and one of them was out east. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll make a shillelagh.
Yeah, I just watched the video of a guy making one, and I was like, "Oh wow, that looks cool."
Yeah,
but yeah, they make it straight from the branch.
Yep. Yeah. That's how I made That's how I made my hiking sticks. So the same way, but shillelagh looks like a little more work. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Who are three, 4, 5 names you would put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, you got the Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, and
nice.
I like a lot of Jet Li movies.
Yes.
Who else? Drawing a blank now.
You got 3 good ones. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that was, I was highly influenced by those guys in the movies and stuff as a kid. So,
So as an Aikido person, are you a fan of Steven Seagal?
I was, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like when I was younger, it was definitely Under Siege was one of my faves. Yeah. I loved watching that practical, Aikido stuff.
I think his first 5 movies were his best. After that, they kind of went downhill a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah. They are kind of all the same setup, but I guess, I like him.
Okay,
he was fun.
Cool. How about a favorite martial arts book?
Ooh. I don't remember the name of the book, but I remember it was an Aikido book. There was a blurb from it that I remember that it was talking about describing Aikido as hitting people with the earth or something like that. It was like, I was just like, oh man, that's awesome.
That is cool.
Or like how to fold clothes with people in it, kind of thing.
Nice.
I can't remember the name of the book though. It was so many years.
I just Googled that quote and it said, Aikido is the art of hitting people with planets, but it doesn't say what book it's from.
Yeah. I remember reading that in a book, and I was like, "That's awesome! Like, I want to do that."
That actually is cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right. How about maybe you have an answer for this one, maybe not, but do you have a favorite martial arts video game? Did you ever get into video games?
Yeah. Mortal Kombat and
nice.
Street Fighter.
Classics.
Probably, I like Mortal Kombat. That was a fun one.
Okay, cool. Yeah. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
Oh, well, I remember obviously watching the Chuck Norris
Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yep.
Trying to think of newer martial arts shows.
Newer ones, we got Cobra Kai, we got Into the Badlands, we got Warrior.
Oh, Into the Badlands. That was
so
I
good.
really liked that. That was good.
So good, yeah. I binged that whole thing in 2 weeks when I found it. So
yeah, so did I. That was fun. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I'm trying to get someone from that show on my podcast, and I haven't had luck yet.
Oh, that would be cool.
I've had a few people from Cobra Kai. I've had the stunt coordinator from Warrior. I've had
cool.
the star of Highlander on my show. But yeah, it's few people that were in episodes of Walker. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is very exciting. All right. How about a favorite martial arts movie?
That's tough. One of my favorites growing up was it American Ninja?
Oh,
is that what it is?
Michael Dudikoff. Yes.
Yeah, it was I remember that movie as a kid. I was like, I should be a ninja after that.
Such a good movie.
I need to learn how to be a ninja now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that was a classic one that I really liked.
Yeah, that's one. If I'm flipping channels and I see that, I will stop and watch the rest of it. I liked watching the Van Damme. Was that Bloodsport? Bloodsport. Yep.
That was a classic one. That was kind of fun. But yeah, I can't think of I'm thinking of modern movies that have martial arts in it.
A lot of people pick John Wick, things like that.
Yeah. But I don't know. Do you consider that? I guess that, it is martial arts, but I
mean, it's not a martial arts movie, but there's a lot of martial arts in it.
Yes, yeah. That's where I was getting
I
hung up,
personally,
where I was like,
I go for the classics myself, but yeah, I get the John Wick thing for sure. So
yeah, John Wick was pretty cool too.
nice.
So.
All right, final question. This one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've ever seen, favorite movie fight scene?
Hold on, I have to look up the name of this movie because I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
It is, what is this movie called? This is going to drive me crazy.
Remember who's in it? I might be able to tell you the movie.
Oh, I can't even think of the actor's name. The kid from The Goonies.
One of the little kids or the older brother?
He was just in, did you see the show Loki?
Oh, yeah.
He was in Indiana Jones.
Kehu Kwan.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I love. Oh, he was in the brand new one where Love Hurts.
Yes, that one I haven't seen that yet, but
neither. I've heard it's great. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, what is that?
That new one that came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes. Oh, there were some good fight scenes in there. Yeah.
So when they're fighting with the hot dog fingers, like I just lost it. I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening. I really liked that movie. I thought it was a great movie. Really well made, very surreal and just bizarre. But like that fight scene where they're like, it's just so ridiculous, and I thought it was funny but still well choreographed. So that was a fun one.
I'm actually trying to get him on the show because he got his black belt when he was a kid. He did Taekwondo as a child and got his black belt.
Oh, wow.
I know the odds are against me, but I'm going to try. I'm really going to try to get him on the show. It'd be
well, if he needs a Bokken, you just let me know.
I will do that for sure.
Just ask him that in the interview. Be like, do you need a Bokken? Because I know a guy.
Can feature it in his next movie and be like, hey, guess where I got this?
Yeah, it would be cool. Like, did you see the Ahsoka, the Star Wars?
Oh yeah, Diana Lee Inosanto. She's been on the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
they're using Bokken, and I was like, oh man. Why didn't they call me? They made Bokken.
I interviewed her after she was on The Mandalorian, but before she did Ahsoka. I remember I asked her if she got to keep the Beskar bow staff. She's like, no, Disney protects that stuff. I didn't get to keep it. So.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
When I saw them training with Bokken, I was like, okay, I need to make one of these Bokkens now.
There you go. Hey, I can get in touch with her, and her husband Ron is one of Dan and Inosanto's top guys. He was also in, I think he was in a couple of the Star Wars ones, and he's got some custom training Cali sticks. They're Baliki sticks, as they're called, I think, from Century.
Cool.
With his own name on them, but it's kind of cool. So cool. Well, before I let you go, Dan, is there anything I forgot to ask you, or you want to be sure we get out there? And like I said, your episode will come out April 10th, and I will put links to your website and your Instagram or whatever else you want me to. But any last minute stuff we want to get out there?
Oh yeah. So I forgot. So I've been working with this company that and they're actually in New York. They hand split logs.
Oh.
So the best way to cut wood is to split it naturally along the grain.
Mm-hmm.
So like they make a lot of blanks for like baseball bats because baseball bats always, they break very easily. But if it's hand split, it splits along the grain, it makes it super strong. So I've been working with them, and they're going to get me some hand split hickory staves, basically.
Nice.
And I'm been experimenting with steam bending wood. So I'm hoping this year a new product is going to be like steam bent Bokken made from hickory.
Interesting. Okay.
Which should be super strong because you're not ruining the integrity of the grain of the wood because you're bending it rather than cutting it. So I'm excited about that.
Cool.
I'm also working on tactical canes. Another
nice.
Yeah, they're gonna be really cool. But I want to make them in a different way where they're laminated for strength.
Okay.
So I'm going to steam bend the staves and then laminate them together into the curve, which can help because I know from what I've researched with shepherd's crooks that are steam bent, they will eventually kind of straighten out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's always a little bit of bounce back when you bend wood. So you always want to overbend it more than the shape you're going to bend it to. So the canes, I'm definitely excited about making some of those. And then the steam bent hand split, which I still got to come up with a clever name for, but I think those are going to be kind of a cool, really strong hickory option for people that want more. Like some people prefer like a solid wood Bokken rather than a laminated.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be kind of a cool product that I'm working on. And then the canes should be really cool too. I'm excited about those.
Nice. I'll be watching the website for that for sure. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And other than that, people can email me, call me, whatever. I'll talk their ear off about wood. And but yeah,
good.
I mean, it's definitely my passion, and I hope that people find me. And yeah,
I can tell you, I've had 2 interviews in the last month that I think on those 2 interviews, I've learned more stuff that I had no idea about. It's this one and the Irish stick fighting one. I learned so much on that episode. And I learned so much on this one. So it's really, really cool. I've been doing martial arts for 40 years. I know a lot about martial arts. So when I can learn stuff that I don't know or didn't know about or had no clue about, I love it. It's really cool. And hopefully I've had a few listeners, after the Irish stick fighting one, email me and say, that's your best episode ever. So I'm hoping I'll get some from this one saying, this is your best episode ever. So who knows? Awesome. Who knows? It's cool. But seriously, man, this has been so much fun. I'm glad you said yes out of the people I asked that design weapons. You said yes. So I'm going to promote the heck out of your website and hopefully get you lots of customers. Seriously, this has been so much fun. I love it. And I will definitely be in touch because I'm definitely interested in having you make some tonfas for me. So, but we will be in touch, and I can't wait to get the episode out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.